Dun 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 dun. Bum 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 bum. Dun 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 dun. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Dun 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 dun. Da 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 da. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews, back with more of our Halloween 2021 reviews. And today we're talking about another one that is definitely a Rob's Never Seen episode. We're talking about 1990's Nightbreed by Clive Barker, a movie that has been on my radar for decades, and I somehow keep not watching it. I keep missing it. It's always there. It's always in the background. I see it all the time, like pictured in the channels and the streaming services that I have, and I keep saying someday, someday. But I was saying this before streaming services. It was a movie that like people would say, you haven't seen that, you haven't seen that. How can you like this and not like that and never seen this? This one, like, as much as like I should have seen movies like Casablanca and things like that, this is, as far as modern movies go, for me, like more modern movies, this is one that I'm ashamed of. Like I'm mad at myself for never seeing this because of all the opportunities and all the wishy-washiness and all the procrastination of never seeing it. But we fixed that today with episode 2 of our Halloween review series. And so, yeah, here we go. I mean, I didn't really know what to expect from this. Somehow, I was able to avoid all spoilers for this film for this long. All I knew was what was on the cover, and that Craig Sheffer was in this, and that it was directed by Clive Barker, and that the music was by Danny Elfman, because I owned the music for a Darkened Theater CD score that had a few of the tracks from this film. This came out on February 16th of 1990. Happy Valentine's Day. But this is kind of a good, kind of a crazy love story. I was 14 years old when this came out. This was coming off, like this is right after Batman, and the reason I say that is because of the score by Danny Elfman. Also did not know that fucking David Cronenberg is the bad guy in this. That's amazing. That's fucking amazing. I loved David Cronenberg in this. I thought he was so, the only other thing I ever saw him specifically in was like an episode of Alias, where he was just this weird, trippy doctor. But in this, he's like that quiet, understated guy again. Just so, like the way he speaks is just so kind of quiet. And what he does in this movie is so violent and so evil and so crazy. And that I just was like, man, the guy, who's known for body horror films like The Fly, psychological films like Crash, I couldn't believe that he was the bad guy in this. The music. All right, so Danny Elfman's an iconic musician. I felt like this movie's music was just like it could have really easily been in another Batman film. look, I like Danny Elfman a lot. I felt like this music at times was a bit too big for this movie. It was Tales from the Crypty. It was Batman sounding. It was like, but it just this. It's the first time I think I've heard a movie score for a I don't want to call this a horror movie. I mean it is. It's great. It's a perfect Halloween have fun movie, which I think a lot of Halloween movies really should be. You got the slashers like Michael Myers and stuff that, like the first one's scary. It's supposed to be scary. But like, the more you go on with Jason and Michael Myers and Freddy, they're really not scary. They're gory and they're funny. This is also like that, but this has a really great story. But the music just felt a little too much at times for this film. And it was I think might be the only complaint that I have about this. Because, I mean, you have to realize this was in 1990, so this is like 31 years ago, right? So you know that it's going to be dated, but it didn't take away from the fact that the visuals, like the practical effects, all the makeup work, all the imagination for all the creature effects and monster effects, and just all the different weird cast of characters you have in this movie, just amazing. And I'm sure that's all comes from the mind of Clive Barker, and then he tells the makeup artists and people who design all this and the special effects, and the book comes from that book that I think he wrote, right? It's just a lot of all of that. They just put it all on the screen, man. And even though you didn't get to see all of the world that these monsters live in, they tried a lot. Now, if you don't know what Nightbreed is about a guy named Aaron Boone. This is the synopsis, right? Aaron Boone is haunted by terrifying nightmares of a city of monsters. He goes to see a psychiatrist, Dr. Decker, for help. Now, in the process, there's a serial killer going around killing families, and he's set up to be Aaron Boone, played by Craig Sheffer, is set up to be the killer. He gets killed by the cops, and he is brought back by these monsters. Becomes one of the Nightbreed. And now, I don't want to. We're gonna get into spoilers, but I didn't want to reveal too much here in the beginning here, because I really want to actually, review this and everything, and then we'll talk about everything, because it's been 31 years. Watch it, come back, and if you have seen it already, then we can, you can hear my thoughts on this. So like I said, Craig Sheffer is in this. He's a guy that was really big in this chunk of time period, in the late 80s, early 90s. I like him in this. He's they give him the leather jacket and the white t-shirt and the sunglasses and everything, but he's not like one of these, he works in an auto body shop, but he's not like one of those guys who's super cocky, got a big bad attitude. He's not the cliche. He is just kind of a guy who's haunted by these nightmares that he's kind of starting to like. I really like that he's just kind of an everyman, but he looks cool doing it. He's not too much. He's a little understated, in fact. Kind of like the villain. So let's just briefly then hit the cast, right? Because I always do. Craig Sheffer plays Aaron Boone, David Cronenberg, Dr. Philip K. Decker. Got Doug Bradley as Dirk Lylesberg, and Bobby as Lori Winston, who plays Craig Sheffer's girlfriend. You got Hugh Quarshie as Detective Joyce. Hugh Quarshie, you will remember from Phantom Menace. He was the bodyguard of Amidala in that movie. The one who goes with her when she escapes Naboo. I don't think he shows up again until... Does he show up in the third one? I don't know. But that's where he's mostly going to be known from. He kind of looks like the guy from Agent Carter season 2, but I looked that up and that's not true. You got Charles Hayde, Hugh Ross, Catherine Chevalier, Oliver Parker, Simon Bamford, Bob Sessions, Nicholas Vince, Tony Bluto, Deborah Weston, Christine McCorkindale, Kenneth Nelson, John Agar, Daniel Cash, Mac McDonald, and Peter Mariniker. Now, I'm sure that there's more people in this than that, but that is what's on the list of cast here on my phone, and that's where I'm going to stop with that. So it's got a really broad cast, a lot of talent. This feels really serious at the beginning. And then once you start getting into like what's going on with the Nightbreed, right? Once you get to that stuff, it's really big and broad and mysterious and just full, like I said, of imagination. The practical effects, the sets for these places are all really cool. A lot of this reminds me of Tim Burton. If I didn't know any better, I'd say Clive Barker was like taking a lot of lessons from Tim Burton in this movie, as far as like set design and things like that, not an atmosphere. And again, with the musical score from Danny Elfman, it just feels like an R-rated, like Tim Burton and Clive Barker got together and made an R-rated monster movie. Let's see, the actress that I said, Anne Boone, who plays Laurie, she was really, and Bobby, who plays Laurie. I liked her a lot because she was not a damsel in distress, really, in this movie. She's put in dangerous situations, but she goes after things. She's seeking answers, and she really becomes, like, she really takes charge of things when she needs to. She's not afraid of things like a lot of these characters would in a movie like this. They'd always be running and screaming. And it's not like she doesn't scream, and it's not like she doesn't run. But she does when it's appropriate for the character to do those things. She also just stares kind of, scary things in the face. After a while, like once she becomes used to the whole thing, she's not like always doing that. She doesn't need people to just constantly come to her rescue. I like that in the character. I felt like it was a bit long, and this was the director's cut I watched, and it was about an hour and 50 minutes, and I felt like there was a whole lot of stuff. The original cut's only an hour and 42, so it's got about just under 10 minutes of extra footage, I would say. Maybe not even quite that. And since I've never seen the original, I don't know what they all put in for this. But it did feel a little long. Like that first hour, once that first hour was over, it was like, man, it really feels like this would be where they start kind of ending it. And it does kind of have like this really kind of long, like, climax. A lot happens in like the last third. It's like the end of like one of those movies like Rogue One, where you see a whole bunch of things get set up, and then once like the big end comes, it's really epic. The end is very epic. Once this, like what we're going to talk about, happens, the start of it to the end of it, a shitload of stuff happens, and it does make like all the setup worthwhile. And again, I was really, really impressed with so much about this movie. It has cheesy elements, of course. It has a lot of, like certain characters that are cliche and over the top, bigger than life. But I loved all of it. And maybe it's because I'm in the right mood for it. Maybe because I was ready for this. And maybe, this was just that time to watch this movie. But I dug it from beginning to end, even though I was watching the clock a little bit. So, like I said, a minor complaint, a bit too long, but I really like the payoff. It's a shame that we never got like a sequel to this. There was definitely like an open end to this, definitely more to say. I don't know how old this story is, but there was supposed to be a Nightbreed TV show. That would be fucking amazing. Now, I would hope that they would still do like a lot of practical effects for a TV show, not tons and tons of CGI, because this thing had even like stop motion capture. This thing had puppetry. This movie had, like I said, like all the like classic like effects that I'd seen in movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Ghostbusters and things like that, where it was even like the weird anything that they did all felt like practical, and they pushed, I think, the limits of what we're capable on an $11 million budget. And even though, like, yeah, none of this is real, none of this looks real. I mean, some of it looks like, like some of the sets look like they came out of the place movies like the Goonies. But I didn't come here I didn't start watching this movie so I could be swept away in some super believable realm of fantasy. I got sucked in by the story. And so we're going to, like, I say, if you have not seen Nightbreed, right? Because I've really tried to stay away from this, away from the like spoilers of talking about this. But if you have not seen Nightbreed, definitely go check it out, because I need to talk about everything that happened in this movie. So you've been warned. All right. So I've never really been into or that familiar with Clive Barker stuff. Just not. I remember seeing Lord of Illusions when it came out at the theater, and I just kind of felt like, at the time, my age, whatever, I was just kind of like, It's the same way I felt about like movies like In the Mouth of Madness. I think that might have also been Clive Barker too, where it was just like, what is happening? Movies like Hellraiser, I saw, and I was like, what's the plot of this? What is going on? Why it just seemed like too much. Also you have to remember that during this time period of my life, some of it, I was still a Jehovah's Witness. So a lot of this stuff was kind of hard for me to like wrap my head around. I knew people that watched stuff, and I'd seen some stuff myself before I lived with my grandparents. I'd seen movies like Nightmare on Elm Street, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I'd seen horror movies. Because my mom stopped caring about what we watched, and we would just be able to rent whatever we wanted. I was picking movies like Old Yeller, and my sister was the one picking the horror movies, which now looking back at, I'm like, man, my sister was way ahead of the curve back then. But it did kind of fuck us up, I think. I think it also helped my imagination, though, get even bigger than it already was at that time. But I gotta say, like, if I'm more interested now after seeing this film into watching more stuff and looking into more stuff from Clive Barker. So I'm sure in the comment section people will be able to recommend some things. We might even be, checking some more Clive Barker stuff out for the channel. Because in October, when this comes out, like, I'm supposed to be going to a dark horror con at the end of the month. So it's nice to have some of these movies in my head now, more than just going to a horror con to promote the channel, but actually be able to have some conversations with people about horror movies. I also had, like, last year, and I've seen a bunch of horror movies. I've seen a ton of stuff, but it's going to be nice to have more stuff. And this one, definitely, I'm glad I got under my belt before going to that thing. So Boone has these, and we're going to get into the plot now. So, like, Boone has these mysterious dreams about being chased by monsters that he's actually starting to like. But he's been seeing a therapist for a while, but he's stopped going, and he's kind of annoyed. He's like, the doctor starts calling him again and calling him again. Like, I don't really want to talk to this guy. I feel like I'm okay. I'm kind of liking these dreams, so I don't really need it. But the doctor goes out of his way to, like, call him again. And the doctor, again, played by David Cronenberg, is like, you need to come see me, right? I don't think you're better. He also says, like, don't let me down. When he's like, hey, I'll try to get there. He's like, don't let me down. I'm like, what fucking doctor? What fucking doctor talks like that? That was a red flag, right? That should be a red flag for anybody who goes to the doctor, right? If you're going to the doctor because you and the doctor both know you've got, like, terminal cancer and you're avoiding something or whatever, and you don't want to get chemo or something, like something radical, something that's going to probably kill you, right? I can almost understand the doctor being like, hey, man, you really got to do this. But this guy, he's just your therapist. And you feel good. I wouldn't take this shit from my doctor. Well, the next scene we get is a very creepy killer scene where a family is killed by this guy in this really great mask that's in the pictures. And yes, I got really indulgent with the images for the intro to this because I fucking loved so many of the images in this. I couldn't decide. In fact, I even recorded a longer version of the intro just so that I could fit the music to the images for how long it was, because I didn't, my actual like little theme song I put in there wasn't as long, so I did that. Well, that mask he has, it reminds me of like Scarecrow a little bit, and it's really creepy. I mean, this guy kills kids, and it's really, really scary and sad. Like, he just takes out the parents, and you don't even see the murder of the kid. You just know this guy is fucking crazy. Now, right off the bat, let's just say it. Cronenberg's the killer. Cronenberg is the bad guy. I said it at the beginning, I guess, but he's the actual murderer. And he's trying to set up Craig Sheffer as to take the fall for his murders. Because he's killed 6 families in 10 months. Right? And I guess maybe he's like, man, I think might be pushing my luck here. I think I need to find somebody to take the fall for this so that I can move on and start killing other places. And he's got Craig Sheffer in the therapy sessions talking about murders. And he's like being specific, and he's like, these, showing him crime scene pictures. Where did this fucking guy get these pictures, first off? Is he like working with the cops to get these pictures? No. Or more likely, he took those pictures himself. Now that I'm thinking about it. Because he's a sick fuck. But again, such a quiet sick fuck. Like, again, he just talks like, come on, Aaron. You really got to get some help. I don't know what, you're kind of dangerous. I think that, here's, you need to turn yourself into the cops. I mean, he doesn't sound, well, outright, if you just met somebody who talked like this, you'd go, why is he talking that whispery? But you wouldn't say he's automatically a killer. He just looks normal. David Cronenberg is just an average looking person. He's what's that Wednesday Addams says in the Addams Family, where she's like, what are you dressed up for Halloween? She's like, I'm a serial killer. They look like everybody else. So that's what this guy does. He just looks like everybody else. But he gives Boone like a bottle of lithium and says, here, take these. These will help you, with your mania, and you're killing a bunch of people. I'm going to give you 24 hours to turn yourself in, and otherwise I'm going to have to report you. Even though he has he's got all this supposed evidence against him, right? Which actually really was questionable to me. Now, we have Lori and Boone's relationship in this. They're very much in love. She's very much in love with him. He loves her. And they were going to just run away. They were going to run away and go off and be where his dreams and his nightmares can't hurt him anymore. But he takes the lithium, and what it turns out is that it's not lithium. The guy dosed him with hallucinogens. So he's going to the club where she sings at. And this was another weird scene because her lip syncing, I'm only assuming it was lip syncing and not really singing, was really bizarre looking. She just was really, I couldn't tell if she was just really into it or really off about it, but it didn't look that great. Especially early in the scene, it looked like some of the lyrics timing was off from what she was saying. But he takes off because she's taught, in the lyrics of her song, she's like, I want a man who's strong and weak and not meek, and you need to show me that you care. And he leaves. Hang on. Okay, so he ends up tripping. He walks out into the road and he almost gets run over by a semi, and he wakes up in the hospital. And that's when he finds out about the lithium being hallucinogens. They've had him there kind of watching him to make sure that he's okay. And that's when he runs into this guy named Narcissus. Crazy name for another guy who's just looks like a burnt out hippie who's also on a bad trip. And he's talking about this place called Midian. And he wants to get there, and it's where the monsters are. And the line of being, where the monsters go to take away the pain and forgive you for your sins. And that was another thing about this, was like talking about what did Aaron do, what did Boone do, like what is his damage coming from? We don't get that. We don't find out what his actual reason for being in therapy was. Is it just because of we're gonna get to like this prophecy that's later on? Is this all just, are the nightmares happening because he's supposed to be there and he's, it's all just like predetermined, and all these horrible things he's seeing and talking about are just convenient for the therapist to use as a like information that can be used as a weapon against Boone. I feel like there's a lot of like stuff that's probably in the book that's not translated very well here, especially about Boone's character. Just stuff that's missing. But this guy, man, he wants to get there, and he thinks that Boone can take him there. He's like, he cuts off his own fucking scalp. And he pulls it off, like all off, baby. Not like a little bit, like his whole head is exposed from like here back. The kind of crazy that can, that drives you to do that. Well, Boone goes out to this place that he described, and he runs into the Nightbreed, who say that he's going there to die because he's convinced that the doctor is right and that he's been killing people, and that he just wants to go out there and die and be with these people, the monsters, because that's where he belongs. But the monsters reject him. They know he's innocent. They can smell innocent on him. They still try to, one of them tries to eat him, but he gets away. But as soon as he gets away, Decker has lured the cops. They've all followed him out there because they tortured this Narcissus guy who is dying, and he told them where to find him. Well, this is where Decker plays his hand, and he's like, "Watch, I can talk to him. I'll get him to come with me." And he's like, "I believe you, man." And he just immediately goes, "He's got a gun!" And so he moves, and they just shoot the shit out of him, man. Not as bad as like in RoboCop, but they say they shoot him like 30 times. But you really don't see anything too gory happen there. In fact, this movie, as weird and as bloody and as like as interesting as things can be, this is not as gory as I thought it was going to be. I thought this was going to be a non-stop blood fest, man. And it really isn't. There's a lot of red Caro syrup in this. They weren't taking any chances, is what the morgue guy says when they look at the coat that's riddled with bullets. And Decker, throughout this whole movie says things like, "Everyone has a secret face." And it's like, dude, ding, 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 fucking villain. Somebody look at this guy. But Laurie, he dies, but he disappears. Some weird magical shit happens around this bite that he got in the cemetery with the Nightbreed. His body's gone. Laurie goes on a mission to Midian to find him, and when she gets there, she discovers the Nightbreed, and he discovers his like role in the Nightbreed. They've brought him back from death. He's like beyond death at this point. He's not dead. He's like dead and not like he's dead. I don't know what I'm stuttering like a dumbass right now about this, but he's dead, but he's still walking around. He's got powers. He can't be killed by normal convention, it seems. You can shoot him and he's fine. You can stab him and he's fine. Every once in a while he touches something and he can his face changes. But she finds him, and this is where we see the huge whole Midian city of where all these creatures are. And what this turns out being is more like a story of who are the real monsters. Because what we find out is these are all creatures or people, really. A lot of them are people, but the things that were driven to extinction as progress and people moved in, werewolves, all these things, all these magical kind of creatures that you would say are monsters, right? That are I'm not going to say that they don't eat people. I'm not saying that some of the things that happen are, but it's more like misunderstood things that were kind of pushed out. But they talk about races that basically were driven to extinction. And if you look at like a lot of like fantasy and you think about the time, like elves that ruled and then they disappear and went to the far plains or whatever the fuck. Just magic and mystery and monsters and all getting basically just snuffed out so that the real normal world is taken over, but they're still there underneath the surface trying to hide out. You find this, she finds this big city like that. Now, this I think is where a movie would or a series would really be able to expand this, because we don't get to see that much. We see a lot of quick images, like it's fucking Dagobah under there, and it's just a lot of like really crazy looking designs and just creatures that look like they're evil or scary or dangerous, and really they're just trying to live. There's kids down there. They're it's like a refugee camp for all these kinds of things that almost are all gone. You know, all the things that go bump in the night, I guess. But she finds him and takes him out of there. Meanwhile, Decker, like, has gone to the cops. He killed the girl that brought her out there. He tried to kill her. He's run out of there, and now he's bringing the police back. And we finally find out his like motivation, because he tortures this guy who knows about the place, who wanted to be a part of the place, and he's like, I kill breeders. So that's why he kills families. So he kills anybody that's breeding what he feels is like awfulness. Like, he sees everything as basically awfulness. People are awful. Everything is awful, and if you're breeding, you're bringing more awful into the world. Now he sees these monsters, and they're breeding, and so his motivation is just to kill all of them because they're more breeders. And it just happens that they use the term Nightbreed in their title of the way that they're called. So he gets the cops involved. You know, they catch Decker again. Meanwhile, Decker is killing like a lot of people. There's here and there, everywhere. He's not caught by the cops at all. But they catch him again, and the cops find out that Boone's got no pulse. And eventually that is enough to drive them to a place where they go and they see that these people aren't normal. The very first guy they run into is the guy with the tattoos and the dog. And he starts burning and explodes. Well, that's all they need now. They were like, ooh, we bring the sun. We can destroy these things. Let's go. And, of course, this is when the hillbillies all arrive. Everybody arms up. Everybody, you know, it's the token town and pitchforks, except a bunch of hillbillies coming to kill all the monsters. But meanwhile, some of the monsters, the freaks, whatever, the Nightbreed, come and rescue Boone from the jail. This was another really great scene. Part of it reminded me of like Terminator with like superpowers, or like, you know, supernatural powers. But he gets back to his people, which is what he feels like these people are his people now. That they have to stay and fight and defend this place. And we get this really long, epic last scene of the hillbillies versus the creatures. We get to see a ton of just really imaginative stuff in these scenes. You know, you got these berserkers that are let loose on the people that are trying to kill them. It's just really, really, really cool. I can't. And, you know, you get to see a bunch of hillbillies get killed, and that for me is always like check mark. It's a big check mark for me. But we find out that there's this whole prophecy that Boone was supposed to be the one that saved everybody. So I'm assuming that that's why Boone was having these dreams, and everything else was that he never killed anybody. He's just been destined for this and just never knew how to explain it until now with these people. But I don't think that they really explained it to him either. And if they did, they didn't do it in front of us. I mean, they did like a ceremony where he's like, you are one of us, and he touches him, but like, and how he's like not a part of the regular world anymore. But he's like this. He was supposed to come here and save us, and he hasn't. He's destroyed us. But he's like, no, 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 no. We can do this. We can get out of here. We can find a new place. We just got to get everybody out of here. Get all the kids out of here. We have to kill these motherfuckers and find a new place. And they need to get this thing called Baphomet out of the basement, which is like their big god. Like that. I don't know what it is. But it's the thing that they like worship. The thing that makes it like, makes some of this possible. And it talks at the end about, you destroyed it, but it was inevitable. You have to find me, you have to heal me. And this guy kind of disappears. And I guess he's kind of one of those creatures that you can kill this in front of you, but somewhere out there is a new version that you have to find. Unfortunately, we never get to that. There is no sequel. But there's also a priest in this that's kind of weirdly shoehorned in that they bring to the cemetery, who, once he starts seeing everything that's going on, he ends up dropping his Bible and just kind of looking around and almost kills one of the cops. He was like, "You're killing children." He gets called a pile of sticks, and then this guy doesn't have any place, and he's like looking around at all this, and he ends up getting this like bowl thrown into his face. It's like acid, burns off all his hair, and he gets all mutated. At the end of this, he's talking about how they're out there, and now he can smell them, and he's like the new Decker, because Decker shows up, right? He kills the detective that was in this, the guy from Phantom Menace, because he started getting too close. But now he's just running around the place with his fucking mask on, killing people everywhere, trying to kill Laurie. And Boone finally kills him, and we don't really... It's a good, satisfying death. I wanted it to be a bit longer. I wanted there to be more to it. Because I felt like this was the big evil. He's the big evil that sent and started all this in motion. So he kind of dies unceremoniously. It was all right, but it wasn't as... I felt like it should have had more impact. Instead, they kind of give more to the priest. And I would have thought if the priest was the guy at the end, like after, Decker dies, if he came back and he's like this weird-looking monster that's still can't be stopped and is now like now he has a way to track them, that would have been pretty cool. But again, no sequel, so it doesn't really matter. So they do, end up killing everything. They get themselves out of there. And Laurie and Boone are at the top of this hill here, and that's why I picked it, because it's like this, it redefines the term going to hell and back for somebody. She looked for him, and she found him, and now he's telling her at the end, like, you can't come with me, I gotta take these people out of here, and, I'm a Nightbreed, I don't want this for you, you have to go. And she's just like, I did all this for you, dumbass, and you're gonna just push me away? She's like, just go, just leave me here, all right? If you don't come back for me, because he says he will. She's like, well, yeah, great, you're gonna come back for me when I'm 90, and you're gonna still look like this? And so he just kind of starts to go, and she takes the big ass knife that she has, and she stabs herself, and she's like, sorry, this is the only way. I want to be with you, and you weren't complying. You weren't getting the gist of this. I'm not going anywhere. And he turns her, and now they're both Nightbreed. And the prophecy is fulfilled as he embarks on finding a new place for him and his people to live. Again, but no sequel. Now, I'm not doing this justice. I know that there are people that love talking about these kind of specific movies and will go into much more greater depth than I am. But, I dug this movie a lot. I didn't like it as much as like when I first saw Fright Night. I love Fright Night. But I am really, really glad that I finally found this, because this is way better than what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be okay. But once I realized what the real plot was, and with villain like Decker and the who are the real monsters kind of thing, it's always hillbillies. I really enjoyed this movie much, much more than I thought I would. And so very, very pleasantly surprised at this Halloween review, this Rob's never seen Halloween review. So, Nightbreed from 1990, fucking A. It's off the list of things I haven't seen and was putting off forever. So if you like this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications. If you fucking hated everything I just said, and you watch this like some kind of masochist, well, we can give you a better memory at the end of all this. So if you like this, please put on shades like I have here, or look away. If you're sensitive to light, get the fuck out of the room right now. Otherwise, these poor bastards will get a better memory. This is just a little snippet of the film that I hope you like more than what I just said. See you on the next one. Bye.
Everything's true. God's an astronaut. Oz is over the rainbow. Midian's where the monsters live. And you came to die.